Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Beverly H. Burks, and this is a City Council special call meeting for Tuesday, October 28th at 6 p.m. At this time, I'll go into roll call, starting with Councilwoman Adi,
Present.
Councilwoman Bell,
Present.
Councilwoman Hood,
Present.
and Councilman Perkins.
Present.
And I anticipate the others. We have quorum, so we can move forward. We'll start with a presentation, administrative business with 3A, and that is the presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2026 operating and enterprise budget conducted by or presented by our city manager, Miller Thornton.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So tonight we'll be presenting the general fund operations, stormwater, ARPA, and sanitation fund budgets tonight. Capital improvements budget will be presented to council on November 6th.
Okay.
All righty. So, all right, so the Part 1, Article 4, Fiscal Administration of the city's charter provides that the city manager will submit an annual proposed budget to the council for the next fiscal year, including a budget message that explains the budget both in fiscal terms and in terms of work programs. The manager's statement for the fiscal 2026 budget proposal document represents the city manager's presentation of the City of Clarkston's fiscal year 2026 budget estimates by fund per line item detail and as proposed for operations, programs, and services to be performed and implemented by the city. The intent of this proposal is to reflect the express vision for Clarkston's ensuing fiscal year as set forth by the mayor and council and as shared by our citizens. As your city manager and CFO, I'm happy to present a fiscal year plan that will move our city towards sustainability and growth, and that focuses on strengthening infrastructure, strategically implementing programs, and offering a sustainable approach to enhancing service delivery. The purpose of the proposed budget, it sets policy for allocation of city resources. It's one of the most important policy documents and decisions that the city council can make annually. It sets priorities for services and programs, and it guides departmental spending. The fiscal focus of this year's budget is community and economic development overall, which includes infrastructure enhancements, efficient, effective service provision, public safety, and program implementation. The budget timeline: in June and July, the administration worked with and I need to clean up this slide, but the administration worked with the staff, department heads through a couple of budget work sessions where the staff the department heads presented their budget requests for the fiscal year 2026. In October of 2025, we had city council review over a couple of work sessions with the city council. Tonight we have the presentation of the operating budget. November, we'll have public hearings and council consideration, and then adoption of the budget December 2nd. Again, this is the budget adoption schedule. We do have public hearings on November 6th at 7 p.m. and November 25th at 7 p.m. And again, we expect to adopt the budget on December 2nd. The proposed fiscal year 2026 budget plan, general fund operations and maintenance, assumes a current millage rate of 15.89 mills as adopted in June of 2025, with a 2% increase in property valuations. It also includes a continued reduction in workforce and work expenditures established during the 2025 millage rate adoption. It does not include a cost of living adjustment for employees to be determined by council, and recommendation is of performance evaluations as a basis for increase. Does not consider compensation study findings the recommendation of review for April 1, 2026, that constitutes a budget amendment. That will be the proposal for the 2026 year. It does not include implementation of the comp study. Again, it includes planning for future annexation facilities and citywide comprehensive strategies. The stormwater fund includes increases in stormwater fee revenue with 2025 increases in stormwater fee assessments. The SPLOST fund includes SPLOST 1 and SPLOST 2 program funding infrastructure improvements, SPLOST 2 program funding for parks and recreation master plan implementation. ARPA, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, includes final allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funding required by the Federal Treasury guidelines to be expended no later than December 31 of 2026. Okay, the general fund summary. So the proposed fiscal year 2026 general fund budget totals $10,599,157. And you can find in the proposed budget document that you have, you'll find an explanation of revenue and expenditures. You can leave it right there, James, and we'll just leave it. Thank you. On page 3 of the budget document, of course, we have the provision where the city council, which is composed of 6 council members and the mayor, you all are vested with all corporate, legislative, and other powers of the city. And before the beginning of the ensuing fiscal year, the council shall adopt an appropriate ordinance based on the city manager's budget with such modifications as the council considers necessary or desirable. So again, this is a presentation of a proposed budget, and of course, council has the ability to consider and determine what the final outcome of the budget document is. Okay, we're good? We on the same page? Okay. All right, as a message, I am pleased to present to you the proposed fiscal year 2026 balanced budget as required by Georgia statute. This budget contains a summary of revenues and expenditures for the general fund and budgets for special revenue funds, enterprise fund, and capital projects fund. In addition, this budget represents our focus and plan for the fiscal year. We are projecting that we will see growth trends due to strategic community and economic development planning. Along with this growth comes increased demands on city services and infrastructure, and ultimately the request for and use of city dollars. We will continue to build upon previous years' efforts to make the city leaner and more effective to ensure a long-term protection of quality of life. I am presenting you with a balanced $10,559,157 million general fund budget that achieves the following, and we are now on page 6. General fund operations and maintenance assumes a current millage rate of 15.89 mills as adopted in June of 2025 with a 2% increase in property valuations. The established tax rate is below revenue neutral, which means that that rate does not, got it? Page 6. numbers are coming. Okay, I'm just giving you the narrative of what to look for when we go through the numbers. Okay, again, so the established tax rate at 15.890 is considered below revenue neutral, which means that at present is not enough to cover current expenditures or estimated expenditures, but it still serves to provide the services for operations and maintenance that we are presenting at present, with a small allocation from the general fund reserve account. It includes a continued maintenance. It includes continued maintenance of the reduced workforce and workforce expense established during 2025 millage rate adoption. This reduction includes non-funded positions of the assistant city manager, special events coordinator, and one laborer for the Public Works Department. It also includes consolidated functions, inclusion of the special event functions within the special projects and diversity, equity, and inclusion officer positions, and assignment of clerk office related permitting functions within the planning and development permit tech position. Again, the budget presentation does not include a cost of living adjustment for employees. That is to be determined by the city council. The recommendation for increases is a performance-based increase in 2026. So that will constitute performance evaluations. All right, let's get into the meat of this. So pages 7 through 9 through 10 is the city's revenue portfolio. So it just gives the different kinds of revenue, the basis upon which we are able to levy or collect that revenue, and the amounts as established by council in a fee schedule for that revenue. So that will give our citizens as well a little bit more information about the different revenue sources that the city has and can collect. On page 11, we began with the numbers. Okay. Again, you see $10,599,157 in general fund revenue that is offset by an equal amount of expenditures of $10,599, $10,599,157. As you all know, the city is required to have a balanced budget. Please note that in order to balance the budget, currently we are having to assign $145,368 from general fund reserve. The goal was to have a budget that did not require general fund reserve balance. We do want to make a note that we'll need to start to look at ways to increase our general fund reserve because we have some fairly heavy projects that are coming up within the coming year. Okay, the amount of fiscal year 2026 estimated revenue exceeds the previous year's revenue in the amount of $881,606. The amount of fiscal year 2026 estimated expenditures exceeds previous year's expenditures as amended to date in the same amount of $881,606. As we reference our tax collections, the total taxes are budgeted at $358,057 more than the 2025 budget as amended to date, going from $8,238,374 in '25 to an estimated $8,596,431 in '26. This increase is due to an estimated increase in real property taxes current year based on the following: It assumes a 2% increase in in property valuations, and it also assumes that an ad valorem tax rate is the same of 15.89 mils as adopted in June of 2025. The increase is also due to insurance premium taxes of $245,629, and is based on that's based on actual revenue received in 2025. Licenses and permits revenue for '26 is estimated at $37,811, less than fiscal year 2025 budget revenue as amended to date. And these estimates are based on current licenses and permits on record, applications submitted, and projections based on actual revenue received. Charges for service revenue is also estimated at $35,210 less for fiscal year 2026 than the amount amended year-to-date for '25. Some considerations for the decrease in charges for service are no municipal election is scheduled for '26, and the overall revenue for charges and services is reduced based on estimated projections due to the actual revenue received in '25. We do see a decrease in parks pool admissions in comparison to what was budgeted in '25. We budgeted $54,562. We received $47,843 in '25. And it's the same, relatively same kind of decrease in reservation fees for our parks. Fines and forfeitures, page 14. Fines and forfeiture revenue for '26 is estimated at $75,641 more than fiscal year '25 revenue as amended to date. This net revenue is calculated based on the amount of municipal revenue collected for fines and forfeitures minus any fund calculations and liabilities that are mandated by county and state agencies like the Local Crime Victims Fund, Peace Officers A and B Fund. Our police admin and IT fees are also estimated at an increase based on current revenue projections. There's no estimation of contributions from private sources. Our miscellaneous revenue is estimated at a decrease, and I need to fix that, at a decrease in 2026 comes in at $93,240, which is less than the $113,288 that was budgeted in '25. A big portion of that is we don't expect to have any reimbursement for damaged property. There is no way that we can adequately estimate that. We don't have any major claims that we can put a dollar amount on at present. Other financing sources, is increased by $105,000 and is based on grant funds expected to be received from ICMA Economic Mobility Special Assistance Grant. The funds received will offset salary and travel expenses for the position. Capital lease proceeds are proposed to be received relative to a lease purchase for a new vehicle for the administration department. Lease proceeds are booked as revenue, and the asset purchase price is booked as an expense in the administration department. The annual lease payment will then be booked in the debt service fund. Okay. So now we'll get to our the budget document that council had an opportunity to review over the last couple of weeks. We've already talked about our revenue projections, so if you'll go to, it says page 4 on the detail, it's at the bottom, it looks like this. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Yes, ma'am. It's a bottom
Everyone
left
is in a
one.
purple folder, and we're looking at page 4. So if you look in the purple folder, page 4.
Ready? Thank you. All righty, so we decided this year to separate out the council and mayor's budget as departments from the administration department. And so you'll find first the proposed 2026 budget for council in the amount of $165,360. $127,260 of that is personal services and employee benefits, to include wages and those associated benefits. And then there are individual line items for council travel, council education and training, and a special initiative allocation for each council member. The special initiative allocation is proposed at $1,000. And so if there is an initiative within the city, a program with a nonprofit or some other organization within the city, a council member wants to have a coat drive or something like that, then they can expend the monies from these particular line items to do that, and we can track it by event. Any questions?
You say question? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Or,
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on the special initiative piece, it sounds like we'd also need to pair that with some updates on our policies and procedures for council. Like, to me, that seems like that would be something that we need to go through, maybe a consent agenda, some kind of process for that as well,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Stephen, do you have anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I agree with what you said.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Oh, actually, sorry, I had one other follow-up to that. Timing on that, would we need to have that done maybe first meeting in January? Seems like we would need to have that on the books before we
Would.
started divvying up funding.
We will present it with a work session agenda for November,
Okay,
and it will be adopted along with the budget document in December.
okay, sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
All right. All right, the next page is 6 and 7 are the detail. Well, next page 6 is the detail to the council summary line items. What we did in this particular document, instead of having a word narrative on the front of the document, we have the word narrative included in the budget estimates and calculations. That way you don't have to kind of flip back and forth. And we can also track the expense against the detail to make sure that it balances. Any questions about that? No? No?
What page are we on, please?
We're on page 6. So each department, and I know this is different than what we're used to seeing, but we also needed to find a way to be able to track the expense within the document in a way that we didn't do last year, to make sure that the budget expectations on the summary, revenue and expense summary, actually match what was in the detail. Okay? So each department is going to have summary line item, and then pages with the detail for those summary line items. So for instance, in salaries and expense, in that summary line item, it would say salary and expense. In the detail line item, it would say salaries, FICA, Medicare, retirement, the different things that make up that salary expense. Okay? Good? Okay, good deal. All right, next we have the mayor's budget, which is Department 1310. Total budget for the mayor is $47,327 to include salary and expense benefits, membership dues, travel, education, and training. Also general operational supplies, like for business cards, uniforms, things like that. Yes, ma'am.
So if I have to do a special initiative, I gotta put some money somewhere?
No, ma'am, we need to include it. I was supposed to do that.
I know.
Page 8 is the detail for the mayor's expense. Page 9 begins the summary for admin. Of course, you see zeros for the council and mayor's line items because we have separated those out. We do have an increase in general admin salaries and wages expense for administration.
Sorry,
A big
which page are we on?
9.
9? My pages are cut off, so I can't see the, what's the,
It says 2026 proposed budget admin at the top.
admin, okay, thank you. I just have, yeah.
So, general admin salaries expense has increased. A majority of that is, let me say, we did not include the assistant city manager position. Currently, the finance director position is vacant, but we included salary for that position. The equity and inclusion officer, that expense is included in general fund with the expectation of a transfer from the ARPA fund for that position. Also for one of the accountants and for the administrative assistant. So if you look at pages 9, 10, and 11, that will be your summary detail for administration. And then pages 12, 13, 14, and 15 will be the detail. We did increase the communications director position with the assumption that we will also have a IT-related function that is applied to that position and its job description. We do need IT services on the ground, in-house, and so to include the IT professional function and the communication, high-level communications professional function, we increased that position salary. The detail again is on page 12. on page 13, you'll see, I highlighted a decrease in the audio-visual services, line item. Again, the communications IT specialist will hold a majority of the function, but we did want to keep some monies in the audiovisual services line item within professional services for those services that would be provided by a audiovisual technician. I highlighted property and liability insurance. We do have a significant increase in property liability insurance. There is about a 15% increase in government liability, plus the $47,000 in rentals insurance for this space.
Okay.
The only other big change in administration is shown on page 15 under 54 general admin capital outlay. It includes the lease purchase of a vehicle for the administration department. Currently, the Ford Edge is assigned to the city manager. That vehicle will be transferred to the planning director. Currently, the planning director is doing site visits for development, economic and community development in his personal vehicle. And so we'll transfer the Edge to the planning department. The Kia that's in the administration, that's held in the administration department, is what's called a pool car. So like right now, the records clerks have the Kia for out-of-state travel. Or,
Madam City Manager,
Yes,
can I ask
ma'am.
you a question?
Mhm.
I saw the VC3.
Mhm.
Are we putting more money in there? Because I know you guys are so frustrated with that service and.
Yes, ma'am. So because we are currently in the contracts, I've housed the money in that line item. If we change vendors, then that money, of course, will still be slated within that line item. It will just be paid to another vendor.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, buildings and grounds, the summary begins on page 16, and the detail is on page 17. There is a little bit of an increase in that expense over 2025, and that is because the rental amount for this building increased according to the lease agreement. So we budgeted $385,000 in '25, and the rental amount for '26 would be $469,000. Any questions on buildings and grounds? Pretty self-explanatory.
The only question I have is around the electricity bill is almost like 4 times as much. Did that just go up because of we're here more, or we're using more electricity, or just this space as a whole compared to the house?
This space as a whole,
Jesus.
yeah, it's a lot. Court services begins on page 19, and the detail begins on page 22. Let me just make a note here real quick too, that 2025 budget, there still are some year-end adjustments that will need to be made. So you'll see the line items for the, some of the line items for the 2025 budget change between now and at least 60 days after year end. Okay. So there's not a real big change in court services, except for there's an increase in, and this is on page 21, but there's an increase in the payments to others, which would be those court liabilities that are paid to other agencies, both county and state. Anytime you expect an increase in fines and forfeitures, you can also expect an increase in those court liabilities as well. You would also expect an increase in, thank you, in bond refunds. That's the most significant increase in courts. Any questions? What's that? Yeah, page 22 is the detail. Yes.
I did have a question on the page 21,
Okay.
looking at the decrease in the crime victim DUI fund.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just didn't need anything for it? What's the rationale? It just went from 5,000 to 600.
Yeah, it's based on the number of DUIs and cases that have been adjudicated through in court. And there's a lot of different factors to that. It could be a case that may be bound over and that's not held or adjudicated, that starts in our court but is not held or adjudicated in our court. And so that amount is actually based on the amount of revenue that's projected for 25.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, public safety begins on page 25. The summary begins on 25, and the detail begins on 28.
Quick
Actually-
question.
The detail, the detail begins on 27.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know we were talking about a strategic plan. Will the public safety plan be integrated up to that, or is that going to be a separate?
Yes, ma'am. So, departmentally within, there are some technical services fees within each department. An overall strategic plan, a part of that is housed in the administration expense, and a part of that is housed in the planning expense line. So overall strategic plan will encompass those departmental plans. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good question. I guess after we go through the rest of the departments, I'll circle back to admin, because a lot of our bigger plans are held within admin and planning, like the facilities master plan, the comprehensive plan, the annexation study is also included there. Okay. Public safety, there's not a huge increase in, not a significant increase in salaries and benefits. The same for contracted services, pretty much holding the same a little bit of a decrease in general supplies and maintenance. Have a little bit of a decrease in the gas, oil, and diesel amounts. That's based on current expenditures. But overall, budget remains the same.
Let you know it's 6:42.
Yes,
Just
ma'am. And we'll be done. We have 3 departments left in the debt service fund. Public Works, summary on page 30, and the detail begins on page 32. So we do see some increase in the public works salaries position. Although we have a reduced workforce, instead of 3 laborers, we have 1. But all of the positions are accounted for in the general fund with the expectation of a transfer from the stormwater fund. So stormwater pays about 25% of the salary expense for public works. So there will be about $131,000 transfer from the stormwater fund to subsidize general fund public works salaries. Currently, the public works director position is vacant. We have the interim public works director, which is classified as the assistant public works director in the budget at present. There is no significant increase in the other categories. Any questions?
So I noticed that maintenance and repairs went up. Is there an anticipation in public works that there are vehicles that need to be fixed or more tools?
Well, the maintenance and repairs line, so initially, when the Parks and Rec budget was established, there were repairs and maintenance lines established for Parks and Rec. In this budget, only the programmatic fees are established in Parks and Rec, and anything repairs and maintenance related, work related, is housed in Public Works. So you'll see that line go up.
So from an expense perspective, are we still collecting in terms of like lawn leaves? Are we doing that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We did see a decrease, a projected decrease for '25, and I know we're still in leaf season. We're getting into leaf season, but based on projections, we will experience a slight decrease in the special pickups.
Okay.
Parks budget begins on 35. The detail starts on 37. Overall, the parks budget went down again because those work-related items have shifted to public works. Have a little bit of an increase in the parks and pool management contract. And then we'll have, of course, full year expense for the program manager. I'm looking for the increase in general supply. So as we as we try to increase programming within our parks, Mr. Director Duncan has proposed the purchase of some athletic equipment and pool supplies. We did find out during the last pool management contract that the contractors really don't want us to provide custodial supplies. It's something that the city would have to buy. That's what we did this year, and so we had to increase that line. Any other questions? Any questions?
$30,000 increase for those. That's the line item on page 35, that very first one, that's the increase you're.
Turn the microphone on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you'll see that line item go up for 25 too, as we make amendments to the 25 budget. So there won't be that big of a difference between the two. All right, planning and development starts on 39. The detail.
I got a question right before we go to.
Okay.
So I know we're trying to get more people to utilize the park, and then the comms went down significantly. Is that shared in another department? Because I see it went down from $6,800, and that's a significant.
Communications.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be shared within the administration line, since that's where the communications person is housed.
Okay.
Planning and development, a lot of our bigger plans are held. You'll see a little bit of an increase. You'll see an increase of over $100,000 in the personal services and employee benefits line. That's because of the economic mobility specialists. That cost will be offset by the grant. We also have the comprehensive plan at $130,000 expense for next year, and the LCI update at $40,000. That's on page 41. Any other questions?
I did have a question as far as like the parks. I know that we started doing the soccer league, and we also continued the basketball. So are those expenses included in this, or?
Yes, ma'am. So our programmatic fees are, let me go back.
If it's included, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
The funding for the Parks Master Plan, though, is not funded within the general fund. Some of that will be housed in SPLOST 2. I know that Mayor and Council set some money aside, but we will have to determine how we will fund the remaining portions of any monies needed for our Parks Master Plan. Maybe some form of redevelopment fund, some form of fund, maybe. All right. Any questions on planning?
Yeah, I have a question about this on-call service. Is this a flat fee of $50,000, or that's
It's
just
not.
a build-up?
It's a bill.
Two. Okay, a cap.
Yes, ma'am. We expect to need some economic
Yes.
advisory services as we move forward with the strategic.
Councilwoman Hood.
Yes, I think it's page 40,
Okay.
Community Action Projects Public, the 35,000, did you speak to that? It's under Planning and Development. My page numbers are cut off, but I think it's 40.
Yes, ma'am.
Community Action Projects.
Okay, so these, you will find the detail on page 43. It's Public Arts Program and Business Economic Development Programs.
Thank you.
The community action special events line, and the community cares grant lines are also housed in the planning and development department budget. The funding for that is offset with ARPA funding. We'll get to that. Debt service, that's on page 44, and I'll speed it up. The detail is on page 45. So as of December 1 of 25, we'll pay off the redevelopment bonds for Friendship Forest, hence the decrease in debt service for 2026. No more principal, no more interest on Friendship Forest. We continue to have the City Hall Annex, those take-home vehicles that we bought under lease, they're paid off. The bucket truck and the 2023 lease vehicles. The only addition is the debt service on the lease vehicle for administration. Questions? Coming down to the wire. ARPA, we anticipate about $605,221 left in ARPA at the end of the year, and so we'll need to expend that by December 31. We're still doing some reconciliation of the kind of late changes that council made in December of 24, so the allocation for ARPA may change. Right now, we're recommending salaries, subsidy of salaries to the general fund, subsidy of the CARES grant of $75,000, $125,000 to the food distribution program for 26. Any questions?
Are you considering the grant person, or is that something?
It's included in administration.
Okay.
Consulting.
I have a question. Are you considering, as we look at the community action project funds, and that's almost being $300,000 easily, that those funds could help with the deficit that we're in, or do you think that based off of this proposal, that they should stay?
So a lot of the way ARPA is proposed is because of the way council obligated the funds last year. They had to be obligated by December 31. Anything that is not contract related can be expended in another manner as long as it meets the criteria. So if you all wanted to, and you can tell me if I'm wrong too. I think I'm right. I'm sure I'm right.
You going?
If you wanted to use some of the, let's say, I hate to say this, but food distribution monies to offset general fund expenditures for public safety or salaries or something like that, you could do that.
I guess to that point, we can look at, I thought you could also use it for where we have loss in terms of revenue. So that's another area that in terms of.
I think that also had to be obligated. You would have to done that resolution by the end of last year as well.
Yeah, I'd have to dig back into that. It's been since the end of last year that I looked at it.
I did do a little glance over the 376 pages of the Treasury guidance on that. But if we find some additional information, we'll send it to council. All right, stormwater is just the increase.
Excuse me. Yes, I had a question, I'm sorry. This is page 2 of the ARPA
Okay.
information. ARPA capital, 135,000.
That was, yes, ma'am. That was actually for 25, and council appropriated that for this building. Any other questions, suggestions on ARPA? All right, last but not least is stormwater. The increase in stormwater is based on the increase in stormwater fees that was assessed by the city in 25. We've offset that increase by assigning the revenue against stormwater repairs. You'll never have enough money to complete your stormwater repair, but we thought that the best place to put an increase in fees. All right. So, again, we have until December 2nd. Well, let me say, the document, even after adoption, is a working document, so council always has the ability to amend the budget as it sees fit. We're gonna clean up this document, post it on the city's website with the narrative so that the public can be prepared for the first public hearing next week. And we'll put the mayor's initiative funds in the budget.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Thank you so much, City Manager. I know, especially with some of our staffing changes, we appreciate making sure that we have this prepared. So thank you so much. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if there aren't any other questions.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. You got a question? Or adjourning? Okay, you move to adjourn? Okay. Did somebody second it?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passed, meeting is adjourned. We got 2 minutes.